Is the screen visible?
Yes, it is visible. So for this presentation, you're only 4 members today. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You can proceed.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is Group 5, ready to present the topic Contract for Materials. I am Bhavna, roll number 23. First, we'll quickly go through the introduction about construction contracts before moving on to the main topic, Contract for Materials. A construction contract is a legally binding agreement between two parties recorded in document form. The contract covers the specifics of a project like timeline, the relevant parties involved, and the budget. It is also known as the construction contract agreement. The two parties involved are known as property owners and contractors. The owner has the full authority to decide what type of contract should be used and the necessary legal terms and conditions which should be included in the agreement. Some essential components in a contract include the contact details of the parties, project description, and the price and bonds. Next is the elements of a contract. First is offer, the promise made by one party to pay for the other party's services. Next is acceptance, acceptance of the other party to perform the task for the required compensation. Next is mutual assent. It is the contract signed by both parties. Next is consideration, which is paid in exchange for one party's goods and services by the other party. Next is capacity. It is the presumed ability of a person to understand the terms and consequences of signing a contract. The last one is legality. That is, the contract must adhere to the law in jurisdiction in the place where it is signed. So, an effective contract requires a prescribed syntax, including the exclusive terms used in the construction contract, which represent the relevant phrases in the contract. It allows flexibility, that is, allows the changing circumstances throughout the project. The specific laws include the workflow of the project, the liens requirement, that are the rights, then claims procedure and damages. A professional lawyer or a construction attorney from our side to create a contract with the necessary details can avoid issues and complications. Some basic and common types of construction contracts include lump sum contract, unit price contract, cost plus contract, time and materials contract. In lump sum contract, it includes incentives, penalties, and other costs. The builder takes on additional risk for considering the additional problems, so the builders can charge a higher fee to account for the risk they are taking on. Next is unit price contract. It typically adds the materials uh, used for repair or maintenance work. Next is cost plus contract. It normally requires the owner to pay for all the project expenses like cost of materials, labor, and other project costs. It also covers the builder's overhead costs and profit. The last one is time and material contract. It, it defines an hourly or daily rate for builders. The owners agree to pay any other related project costs like markup or overhead costs. Next, we move on to the contract for materials. It is an agreement between the owner and contractor with specific terms and conditions and the details of the work, wherein all materials required for the construction and the labor are supplied by the contractor. Next, we have the parts of the material contract. It includes labor hours, that is, the maximum labor hours that the contractor uh, must specify, and the owner must be alerted when the maximum limit is reached so that they can work out another agreement. Next is unit labor cost. The contractors can structure the labor rate according to the desires of the owner. For example, if the owner wants a detailed schedule of all the laborers with the base labor rate and burdens individually, it can be included in the unit labor cost. Next is set materials markup. It includes a set markup on materials. It usually covers brief time frames, so price protection for the contractor is less. It takes into account the current costs, types of materials, and their availability. Next is reporting. The owners will typically want daily reporting on the labor and material costs and the work that is done daily. The tally is total and it is paid to them weekly or on a monthly basis. Next is billing. Basically, once the party agrees to billing and payment schedule, adhering to the schedule can keep up the relationship between the contractors and laborers. That means the contractors must bill on time and with the correct information. The owners must complete their inspection for quality so that they can make timely payments. Over to Bala Vignesh, who will explain in detail with an example.
Hello, this is Bala Vignesh, role number 22. Here to give a brief on material contract. One can choose material contract when there is some flexibility, dynamic work scope, better timing. To know what's flexibility, flexibility is unit price contract, allows business to modify the volume of work, revise materials or design, shift the focus or change features following the project implementation. Dynamic work scope is one of the key features within larger project. Better timing. Avoiding fixed price bidding process helps to save time and start immediately. Moreover, blended rates allows to see how much time the team spends on each feature and commit. But there are some circumstances to avoid material contract. Those are low budgeting control, deep involvement. Low budgeting control is the main risk of material contract. The overall cost can go far beyond the expected budget. Deep involvement is required to make sure that the team is delivering towards the approved scope and within correct amount of hours. An additional downside is that if a job is finished earlier than anticipated, then the contractor loses out on his income. There is no reward for the contractor for finishing early. On the flip side, contractor may try to do the job slower just to increase the amount of money they can earn. So if it's long-term project and willingness to manage the project, one can choose material contract. Next slide. The risk factors for contractor while considering material contracts are delay, dispute, and risk. To know about delay, all materials are arranged by the contractor. He cannot blame the house owner for delay in the material arrangement. Generally, on account of contractor's technical knowledge and long-term relationship with suppliers, the contractor can manage the materials timely on site. And the contractor also supplies the material timely to save himself from rising prices. Dispute is seen that many arises for changing the drawing, scope of work, specifications, material quality, quantity, etc. Risk is in case of material contract, owner has lower risk. All the scope including engineering licensing, procurement and construction work is done by the contractor. Next slide. Let's consider an example of landscaping job to analyze risk factors of contractors. If you will be the contractor, then you have to write time and material for your assigned job. It's simple contract that says your hourly rate is rupees 30 and charge an extra 10% on any material you purchase. It also states that your customer won't pay more than 80 hours worth of work and rupees 1000 in material. So if something happens and you need to spend more than 80 hours on the job, your customer will only pay for 80 hours. So to work on this, if anything is delayed, the contractor will lose his commission. For contractors though, it would be difficult for custom jobs that are hard to price accurately. Now Chandana will be discussing about the types of material contract.
Um, Sorry, ma'am,
Sorry.
there was some problem with the connection. Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chandna, roll number 26, and next I will be explaining the various types of material contracts. So the first is item rate material contract. The nature of agreement in an item rate material contract is one in which the contractor agrees to carry out the work as per the drawings, bills of quantities, and specifications in consideration of a payment to be made entirely on measurements taken as the work proceeds and other unit prices tendered by the contractor in the bill of quantities. The next is lump sum material contract. The nature of agreement in the case of a lump sum contract, the contractor agrees to carry out the entire work as shown in the drawings and described by the specifications by supplying labor and materials, all for a specified lump sum. The major feature of the agreement is that the contractor agrees to accomplish all of his or her contractual obligations and responsibilities for the stipulated payment, no matter what trouble or expense he or she comes across in doing so. The next is percentage-based material contract. In this form of contract, the department draws up the schedule of items according to the description of items sanctioned in the estimate with the quantities, units, rates, and amounts shown therein. When a department fixes the rate of item, it is known as the item rate contract. The percentage rate contract is similar to the item rate contract in almost all respects, except for the method of tendering the unit rates. The next is cost plus fixed percentage material contract. In these days of increased price rise and absence of a satisfactory explanation to determine the pay escalation in the cost on a mutually agreed basis, contracting is often reduced to gambling or betting. If the contractor is likely to lose heavily, he or she abandons the work midway. And if the employer has to pay in excess of the agreed contract sum, he or she runs the risk of financial difficulty. An alternative form of a contract which does not throw much risk on either parties is the cost plus fixed fee type contract. Next slide. So next I'll be explaining various features of a material contract based on various parameters. The first is assurance of quality and quantity of materials. As the materials purchased by the contractor, the verification of quantity, either in terms of weight or number, is done by the contractor. Hence, the owner is free from all the hassles. This is very important as the house involves more than 100 items, and for all such items, you have to undergo a very similar process. There is a good chance that contractors might use second quality material for the construction whenever it is possible. The quality of material and workmanship both as a responsibility of the contractor, and hence in case of poor workmanship, the owner can reject the work without any loss. The next is the involvement of the owner. In case of the material contract, purchase of materials including a check on its quality and quantity is done by the contractor. Hence, the owner has to spend very less time at the construction. Hence, the material contract is the one which the owner should choose if he or she doesn't have much time to invest in monitoring and organizing. Finance. As we have already discussed yesterday, in a labor contract, the owner buys all the materials for the construction, and hence he or she has to manage and plan the fund from the beginning, that is day one. And the cash flow has to be strong. Whereas in the case of a material contract, initially the contractor has to invest money for the procurement of material and labor, and hence the owner gets some time to manage the funds for the project, thereby saving interest to some extent. The knowledge of the materials. In case of a labor contract, mostly the owner is not aware as to how to check and judge the quality of materials, so he might get cheated. The owner might also be cheated even in rates, though the purchases are bought in bulk. You may be buying a good brand, but still you would be in dark regarding its quality, for which you don't have any control or knowledge or expertise. In case of a material contract, as the contractor buys all the materials, the owner need not have any expertise in purchase or bargaining for the materials. The next is based on cost. In case of a labor contract, the owner can save on the account of profit considered by the contractor on all material costs. But this is tricky and not always true, as sometimes it may prove costly also. But in case of a material contract, contractor can buy the materials at a lower cost due to the following reasons: a long-standing relationship with the suppliers, bulk buying, and his capacity on account of technical knowledge to bargain with the suppliers. The fluctuation does not affect the owner if the escalation clause is not included in the agreement or basic rates are not provided in the contract. Many people believe that although the contractor procures the materials at a competitive price, he will not pass on the savings to the owner. Time and efforts. The owner has to manage the timely supply of materials at the site during the progress of work. The work might get delayed if the materials are not properly managed by the owner on time. As the purchase of materials, including a check on its quality and quantity, is done by the in the case of a material contract, there is no botheration for the owner. Am I audible now?
Yeah, now you're audible.
Okay. And the last would be wastage of materials. If the owner is not properly helped by the contractor, there is a possibility of wastage of materials on site. The contractor is not providing materials, and hence he may also use the material. In the case of a material contract, the contractor can always reuse
Chandana?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. In the case of a material contract, the contractor can always reuse the waste materials either at your site or on his site, and hence the burden of wastage will not add to the cost. And next, Yuvraj will be explaining the advantages and disadvantages of material contracts.
Hello guys, I'm myself Yuvraj and my roll number is 25, and I'm here to explain about the pros and cons of the material contract, that is the advantages and disadvantages of material contract, about each point briefly. So first we will go with the pros of material contract, that is the advantage of material contract. The first point explains high flexibility to change in requirement. This explains that the work process in material models is open up for changes and adjustment. That is, adding or removing or improving every features to get a viable effect is not a problem if the client has a more budget. And the second point is foster project start and dynamic decision making. This explains that a lot of startups will benefit from the early start of the project. They should always make decisions during the process of a development while the work is ongoing. This way, they can respond accordingly to the needs and pains of their target group that can evolve at any minute. And the third point is better control over the project. That is, the material pricing model is oftenly used in agile development as it gives the client a much more possibility to be the part of the work. That usually means that sprints, irritation, and meetings are organized regularly to discuss the project progress and the next steps in the project. Next slide. Now we'll go to the disadvantages of the material contract. Here, the first point is lower control over the budget. This explains that the work is not limited by a tight plan or schedule like a fixed price contract. Means that at the end of the day, we may need to pay much more than we wanted to. A fix to this would be to use common sense and not ask for new functionalities all the time, but only the ones that will be really benefit over our business. The second point is need for being much more involved. If the client does not like to be the part of a team, that materials might not be the best model. It requires a presence and often active participations in the progress. And the third point is uncertainty when it comes to the timeline. All the disadvantages and this might be caused by the fact that this type of contract is highly flexible. If we lose the control over the project, the deadline might become a distinct point, and in the end, the project may also be not finished according to the time. Now we will move on to the next slide that discuss about how to decide on what type of contract to choose. Many of the builder owners in India uh, are likely to go for which type of contract. So these are the basics point they must realize in their mind before giving them any contract. The first point is your availability. This point explains that there must be your presence in the presence over the full time project. And the second point is your basic knowledge in construction, like the material prices and how much time it will be required for putting a column or a beam, etc. And the third point will be, will there be any person who can take care in your absence during a workday? It's explained like if you are going out in a much like in a common situation, so there must be like any of your relationship or your friends should be there to take on your position during the project. And the fourth point is the quality of the person in charge, like the contract owner. They must be very experienced and they must finish the project quickly and etc. So if you don't have a lot of time to invest in the construction process, you can go to the material contract. Or else, if you don't know much about the construction procedures and you may need help, you can go to the labor contract. Now my friend Bala will take over from here.
Hello. Next slide.
Yes, Bala.
The reason to go for material contract is that one who does not time and energy to run after the purchase of materials and also to coordinate with different labor, contractors who always prefer to contract work to a single agency of repute who will do everything for the owner. Both workmanship and quality materials are the responsibility of the contractor, and hence, in case of poor workmanship, the owner can reject the work without any compensation. In case of material contract, purchase of material, including a check on its quality and quantity, is done by the contractor. Hence, owner has to spend less time at the construction site. The owner has to just control the work's quality of material as well as workmanship. To conclude this, it is advisable to go with material contract if the owner and do not have time to involve yourself in the construction process. Meantime, you have to assure the quality of material as there is chance of usage of second quality materials by the contractor. And that's all about material contract. Hope you guys found it informative. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Bala, Vignesh and team. Your team really came out with a very good presentation. You have covered the entire ins and outs of contract for materials. You have described about with an example of explaining it, also with advantages, disadvantages. And only one small remark I just wanted to give you was there were some few spelling mistakes which you have to take care. Other than that, everything was very good, not an issue. Okay, and again, like similar to the previous team which has presented yesterday, you four people managed to present it at the last time, so that was very good. Even like people called me last night telling that one of them didn't turn up. That's okay, not an issue. If people are not turning up, just ignore them. You this is for the upcoming teams. If any one of them are not cooperating with you, or they are not like obeying what you are telling, your team members are telling, then in that case you can eliminate that member and you alone can start your presentation. Is that okay? But your team must inform me in prior. Okay. Yes or no? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So over to team 6. And team 6, you have only half an hour. Try to complete it as early as possible. And do you have the next class starting at 10:30?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So kindly make it faster.
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah.
My slide visible?
Yes, it is
Yes,
visible.
yes.
Okay. So, good morning to everybody. We are Team 6 here to present the seminar on the topic Design Build Contracts or Contract for Designs. So, Dinesh will take up the introduction.
Good morning, I am Dinesh Kumar and my roll number is 103119030. And now we are going to see about what is contract. First of all, we should know what is contract. Like contract is a legal agreement or binding between the two parties. Like the parties are like one is customer and another one is like one who owns a construction company and the members and the employees all this and the people's related to it. So it's like that. It creates it defines the duties and obligations between the two parties which are involved, and it also tells the terms and conditions and the both parties necessary which should be managed and which should be negotiated by both the sides. And in this side, the construction management team is going to face a major problem in this, because in this we are going to see why the contract is majorly necessary in construction management. And now we are going to see what the construction management is going to do. Like the construction management is going to take a major risk, like they want to give a perfect quality output so that the customer gets satisfied, and they want to maintain a good relationship between the. Is the slide is moving?
Yeah, just a second.
Next slide. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the construction management team should turn out the planned as well as they planned, turn out the output as well as they planned, because if the outcome is a little bit problematic, or if had any error, then the relationship between the customer and the other side will be problematic. So the construction management team faces major problems and takes many risks to make the output so qualitative and quantitative. So, and as far as and the demand of both the sides should be well managed, else there will be a very big problem also. So the contract of construction management plays a very major role in part of this, and in this it says about the resources and the relationships and what are the things necessary and the budgets and many things, so that the contract in designs helps major things in this. And this contract are not only for design, it's also has major things like 4 types. There are many types of contracts, and the majors are contract for labors and materials, designs and construction. And now we are going to see what are the importance and why we are using the contracts for design. Dheeraj will proceed it.
Thanks, Dinesh. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Hello.
Yes, Dheeraj.
I'm Dheeraj, roll number 29, and I'm going to talk about what is design in construction management and why is it so important. Design is basically creating a solution of the whole project before starting the construction, keeping in mind about the customer's necessities, the budget, and the physical, social, and environmental conditions of the plot. In order to produce the best outcome of the successful project, it is necessary to plan the process of designing by coordinating and communicating between parties. Of course, problems can occur among each other when there is some missing information or poorly communicated information or inconsistencies between documentation or resource or poor resource allocation or poor decision making due to inadequate information and so on. Generally, these are the reasons that cause misunderstandings between the parties. So these things need to be avoided as much as possible. Finally, design management is a process of managing design throughout the project life cycle. Next slide. Steps to be followed in contracts for design. A certain procedure should be followed while dealing with contracts for design. On the screen, you can see a basic organizational chart of how the contracts between people can be formed. First, the client forms a contract with the project manager and architect. Project manager forms an architect forms a contract with architect. Architect forms with an design manager, design coordinator, and design engineers. Design engineers forms with an mechanical engineer, structural engineer, and electrical engineer. Coming to the core topic, there are 4 steps involved in dealing with contracts for design, and each step has its own significance. Let us see what the first step is. Step 1: Client engagement and control. Firstly, the client meets with an architect suggested by the project manager to discuss about the base of the construction. The client expresses his expectations to the architect who helps him to specify his needs and define a program to carry out his architectural project in the best conditions. The architect informs the client about the conditions of the site, the construction on the construction and any additional requirements as well as the administrative procedures required. Even if the client does not have an own or have a suitable land plot for his desirable structure, the architect can also assist the client in the quest for a potential construction site. He asks about the client's budget and eventually provides the assistance to complete the financing of the project. The architect describes all the services he proposes to deliver and corresponding fees to be agreed with the client. In short, client must properly be engaged in the design process with the design team. Next slide. Here's a flowchart suggesting that design is an iterative process. Design's input is taken, designs will be processed, and outputs are given. At the end of each iteration, the outputs are reviewed, and then the process begins again. That's all about the first step. Next, Dilraj is gonna take over, and he's gonna tell us about the second step.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. Myself, Dilraj Sani, roll number 031. I will cover sketch and preliminary design study. Next slide, please. Presents the result of his first physical study of desired building and complete an initial sketch based on various parameters related to construction site, the characteristics selected by client and its financial con- constraints. This initial sketch enable an initial visualization of the project executed in the site. The architect also specify a first estimate of the cost of external techniques, the execution of contractor activity. The architect may also several options that focus on one or other of the conditions mentioned by contracting authority and reducing construction cost, minimizing the cost of use and maintenance, maximizing the building durability, optimal insertion in natural or urban environment, architectural quality and originality, etc. At this stage, nothing implies any further commitment from the client. Next slide, please. Yeah, the step 3 is preliminary design studies. The preliminary design or high-level design include often bridge a gap between design conception and detailed design, particularly in case where the level of conceptualization achieved during ideation is not enough for full evaluation. So in this task, overall system configuration is defined and systematic diagram and layout of the project may provide early project configuration. During detailed design and optimization, the parameter of the part being created will change, but the preliminary design focus on creating the general framework to build the project on. Next slide, please. As Blanchard and F. Pravecki also discussed the preliminary design studies in their own word as the what initiating conceptual design product produce how from the conceptual design evaluation effort apply to feasible conceptual design concept. Next, he said that the how are taken into preliminary design through the map of allocated requirement. Here they become what and drive preliminary design to address how at this lower level. If the client is satisfied with the initial sketch or diagnostic sketch, he may decide to continue the work according to initial procedure of the sketch studies. Next slide, please. Here you can see an example of a contract drafted between a client and an architect. This is the contract. Whenever a contract is concerned, we will have certain terms and conditions. Now Satvika will continue the further presentation.
Thank you, Dilraj. I'm Satvika, roll number 103119027. I will be discussing about the terms and conditions of the agreement between the client and the architect. The first one is warranty of architect registration. The architect confirms that she or he is a registered architect in accordance with the provisions of the Building Control Act 2007. That is, the architect should provide a proof that he is experienced in the field. Now, the terms and conditions also include duties of an architect and the client. Next slide. The architect duties include exercising reasonable skill and care on the project in accordance with the normal standards of the architect's profession, and he should provide the client with the services agreed. He should take the responsibility of the project. He should also take account of the client's budget. He should keep the client informed of any significant increases in cost during construction. Where the building control amendment regulations apply, he should advise the client of his responsibility to appoint competent persons to undertake the roles of an assigned certifier, design certifier, builder, and ancillary certifiers for compliance with building regulations. He should also advise on building status, stating if it is a protected structure or not. Now, the client duties include, next slide. If the project comes under the Building Control Amendment Regulations 2014, the building owner has an obligation, that is, the owner should take the responsibility to appoint a design certifier. Now, there is a provision in this agreement for such an appointment as an additional service with the charge for that service which is identified separately in the agreement. The client should provide the architect with all the information necessary to enable the appropriate design to be prepared. Also, where the building control amendment regulations apply, he should make a separate appointment for the assigned certifier and comply with the requirements of the Building Control Act and regulations as they apply to building owners, which include for the giving of notices and the appointment of suitable competent persons to design, construct, and certify the works. Now, we also have some other terms and conditions. Next slide. That is consultants, subcontractors, and suppliers, which will be discussed in the next step, that is fourth step. The next is inspection of building work. That is, the architect should visit the site at intervals he or she considers appropriate to inspect the progress and quality of the work. The next is charges and costs incurred. The next is omitted work and changes. That is, the architect will be entitled to charge for the work done, which may be the cost which the client subsequently omitted from the project. The architect's liability. The next is copyrights, that is, all the drawings and documents prepared by the architect shall remain the architect's properties. Next is suspension and termination, that is, the client may suspend the architect's performance of any or all the agreed services, and either party may terminate the architect's appointment on the expiry of the reasonable notice given in writing. The last is disputes. Now, after the contract between a client and the architect is drafted, subcontracts will be given to the people mentioned in the above organizational chart discussed by Dheeraj. Now we'll move on to the step 4. Step 4 is subcontracts. As buildings become increasingly complicated, it becomes less and less likely that any one contractor will have the required skills to carry out all the works necessary to construct them, and it may not make it a good commercial sense to take on new employees for one project that would have to be laid off for the other. Therefore, contractors will use subcontractors to carry out particular elements of the work. Now, the subcontracts can be of 3 types as shown in the slide. It can be domestic, nominated, or named subcontractors. The subcontractors can be design engineers, design coordinators, etc. These consultants, subcontractors, suppliers, specialist consultants may be appointed on the architect's recommendation. Where such persons design part of work, the client shall pay them separately and shall hold them solely responsible for the performance of their design. Now, in next slide. Here you can see some of the subcontracts given. Next slide. Yeah, this is the process of how the design contract will be formed, like from the contract term analysis to user testing. The pros and cons are discussed by the previous groups. It will be almost same for all the contracts. Now the next part is design build contracts, and Gayatri will take on from here.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. So yeah. Good morning. This is Gayatri, roll number 28. I'm going to present on the topic design build contracts. In the design build contract, the owner contacts with a design firm that produces the construction documents, and the builder is the one who physically builds the building, so that both the design and construction goes into a single contract. Design and build contract gives a single point of responsibility for delivering the entire project and can ensure good buildability, cost control, speed, etc. This is a new method, and it is based on a sequential process of design, construction document followed by the construction. So the next is the uses of design build contracts. Design build is typically used when an opportunity exists for the owner or the agency to save time by having construction begin before the final design has been completed. By contrast, in the traditional system of design build, the owner contracts separately with a designer and a builder, and the designer must be completed before the owner puts out a call for construction build. By combining both aspects of project delivering under a single doc agreement and thus a single bidding process, design build can save time and in some case money for the owner. In addition to projects on tight schedules, design build is often preferred by federal agencies with a need to fast track projects so that the return on investment can be capitalized sooner. Design and build contracts is intended for use on construction projects following the design and build procurement route. This involves appointing a main contractor to design the project and then go to construct it. This is as imposed to the traditional procurement route in which the client appoints consultant to design the project and then contractor is appointed to construct it. The scale and complexity of design and build projects can vary considerably, but the design build contract is generally suitable for projects where a detailed agreement is required, making provision for collaborative working, sustainability, advance payment, third party rights, bond, collateral warranties, and so on. So the next slide goes on with the build. This design build contracting offers several potential benefits, that is the advantages of design build contracts. Identifying long lead items earlier, allowing for the project to be repeated, shortening the construction calendar and reducing design time, simplifying construction drawings, leaving value engineering alternative open for discussion and analysis through the project, minimizing change orders, fast track schedules, customizing the design to actual site conditions more easily, and so on. Also, there are some drawbacks of design build contracts. The counterweight between a contractor and the design team might be reduced, and some conflicts might appear. If the project inspector and the team are not experienced, problem could become frequent. And design build eliminates the possibility of using an integrated design. A project that is not scheduled properly might be sustainably delayed. The contract doesn't impact labor cost. Final cost can be reasonably higher than original estimate. The architect's vision may appear to favor the contractor. Frequent and costly repair may be needed, and so on. So with this, we complete our presentation on the topic design build contract. Thank you from Team 6.
Very good presentation by Team 6. Hope all the members are present in this team, like all have presented. You presented with the examples, advantages as well, like similar to the previous team. I don't have any remarks from your team as it was a very good presentation. Other students, do you have any doubts you can discuss with the Team 6 or Team 5? Do you have any doubts in seminar topics, contract for materials or contract for design? You will not have any doubts. Is it so? You understood everything. Okay. So if you're not comfortable asking questions here in this medium, like later you like when your friends are sharing the slides also, you can discuss with them if you have any doubts. They'll help you out. This will help them to be more strong on that particular presentation which they did. As well, they'll be it will be easy for them to help out others. Okay. So thank you, Team 6, for completing it on time. Okay. Any other doubts? Any other queries? Do you have any doubts? Okay, so today we have 100 plus. We have actually got 112 people present today. So I want the maximum strength to be present for the upcoming seminars as well. And Divya, can you download the attendance and just drop me a mail?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And for the next week, any other CRs can take responsibility in starting the meeting, and you can download the attendance. And whichever team is presenting that day, you can make the team members as the presenters. And it would be good if the CRs are making all the team members as the presenters, so that if the students are attending through mobile also, they'll be able to take control and they themselves will move their slides. So that also we can take care from next week. If you have any queries or any doubts, you can stay in the meeting. Others can leave the meeting.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
Monday morning, first hour, we have a class.
Thank you,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Monday morning 9:30. Sorry, Monday morning 11:30. We have a class. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, students.